name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Between you and us, a great chasm has been fixed. A chilling thought, or rather say, or should I say a burning one, that Father Abraham states to this rich man in Hades. This chasm is disturbing. Father Abraham, the father of faith, is on one side of the chasm, and perhaps we could be on the other side. How can this happen? Tony and I just came back from a vacation in Newfoundland and Labrador. We stayed in outports, or small fishing coves, where we learned the history of this place. Basque, Portugal, Spain, France, and England from the 1400s mined this place. They mined it for the seal pelts and oil, the whales and their oil, to light all of Europe, as well as cod for salt fish. By the 1600s, England and France were contenders for permanent settlements in North America. St. John's, Newfoundland, became the main port, not an outport, but a main port, because this was the most easterly point in North America for sailing ships. Here, companies made their headquarters, and wealth accumulated at a great cost. These companies hired a variety of poor, prisoners, debtors, criminals, and widowed families to come to the New World for freedom and a better life. The people were placed in outports where they were to catch and salt cod. This was mainly a woman's job in the salting, for pelts and oil, and they got this by jumping for the seals on floating ice pans out on the open ocean, carrying a gun and a grappling hook. As well as they hunted whales and processed them in these little outports. The companies did not treat these people very well. And we read two books, or suggested two books, while we traveled. I'm going to share just a piece of this one called Random Passages by Bernice Morgan. She's a Newfoundland that wrote about this period. And 2 men were killed in the hunting of the seals, and their bodies were brought back to St. John's, and a person was now going to take the frozen bodies back. But he wanted to have some payment to the family because these guys had lost their lives. So the accountant put it this way. Well, the companies owns the seal hunt, see? They owns the vessels and the provisions. Them hires the captain and so forth. So when the trip's over, they divvies up what they expect to get for fur and oil. 1/3 between the men, another 1/3 to cover the firm's expenses, and another 1/3 for the profit. Leastwise, that's what they says. Though from what I hears, they get twice, sometimes 3 times what they expect when they finally sell those skins and the oil. Funny, isn't it? How the men always get less than what they expect, and the owners get more. The company vessels would sail periodically out to these outports to collect the fruits of the labor, and leave off flour, molasses, nails, ammunition, and knives. Never money. The people in these outports had to fend for themselves against being frozen completely in the outports for 5 months out of the year, starvation, poor soil to garden on the side of rocky fjords, and that came with the ice pans in the spring along with the seals. These families were often city folk who had never even seen the sea, let alone a small dory with oars. If the company's vessel captain did not have perceived that he had not received enough fruits of their labors, the outboard rations were cut. These company vessels later sold their collection to other companies to process even farther. If something spoiled in the handling of the goods, the loss was not passed to the middleman, but passed down to the port families. A great chasm had formed. The Newfoundland story rang a bell with the 46 of us that were traveling and studying this culture together. Christine from Australia shared her story of coming from prisoner folk from Scotland. Around family set tables that we were eating at in these outports, other stories were shared. My question in this conversation was, how are we continuing this chasm in the present time? Is there a chasm today? Labor issues, health issues, school inequities, housing issues, immigration, homeless issues, addiction problems, natural disasters? Do they create chasms between the haves and the have-nots? These are uncomfortable questions. But where does Jesus stand on this issue? The plight of the poor is Jesus' theme in the Gospel of Luke. From the Magnificat, where Mary exalts that the hungry will be filled with good things and the rich sent empty away, to Jesus' inaugural sermon, where he has been anointed by the Spirit of the Lord to bring good news to the poor. Jesus extends feast invitations to the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame. He warns the rich about storing up treasures in larger barns. Jesus wants the rich young man to sell his possessions, distribute them to the poor, and follow him. And you know what? Luke isn't finished yet with us. Today, I believe there's a widening gap between the rich and the poor, and it's getting wider. Is it a chasm? The intrepid moral of this story expressed in this parable is that if we do not cross the gaping chasm between the rich and the poor in this life, we surely will not be able to do it in the next. For those who hoard and have more than their share of the earth, there is no respite to offer in the life to come. Warning messages come from every form, but if they remain unheeded, in the final day, this chasm cannot be crossed. According to the parable, there is no escape from this indictment. Those who help create economic divide by greed and selfishness will be unable to right it for themselves in any other life other than this one. This parable is urging the haves to do justice now, for there will be no opportunity later. The saying, justice delayed is justice denied, extends even farther through this teaching of Jesus. It seems to imply that redemption delayed is redemption denied. This is one of the harshest readings in the scriptures. If we can find any redemption in this parable that shouts, too late, too late, too late. Can we? Luke clearly tells us that this parable was given to the lovers of money. Apparently, Jesus wants to reveal through this story that if we love money more than people, our possessions more than the poor, our clothes more than compassion, our feasts more than sharing food with the hungry, we are in trouble. Yet this parable is a word of comfort and hope to the poor. Jesus identifies with the poor initially. It's out there in magnificent living color. This is a stern and unrelenting admission to those of us that have some wealth to share our earthly resources and fight to cease oppression where it exists. By the end of the parable, the rich man is in a place of torment, yet he is still entrenched in his privileged attitude. He wants to order Lazarus to do something for him. In fact, he does not even speak directly to Lazarus, but entreats Abraham to send Lazarus to provide him with some relief from his pain. He begs Abraham to send warning to his brothers, but Abraham replies that even if one were to rise from the dead, that would not be enough. Abraham's words suggest that stepping out of one's privilege is perhaps the most difficult journey of transformation. 2 chapters ahead in Luke, he'll compare this to getting a camel through the eye of a needle. Abraham's words, "There is a great chasm between you and us," makes Abraham, not God, the judge here. Jesus puts Abraham, the parent of faith, in the role of judge. Abraham sits with Lazarus, indicating a startling truth about who is faithful and who is not. What we know from the parable is that because of the rich man's lack of action and compassion, the rich man cannot cross the place of faith, nor does he have Abraham at his side. Can we, who are steeped in a consumer society, find ourselves on the wrong side of the chasm? This parable is one of the hardest to hear, if we can really hear it. Be aware of seeking oblivious comfort. Let the news that we hear on the telly disturb us. Notice the poverty as we travel about. Be uncomfortable with the ways and beings of the poor among us. Use these sources of